Welcome to the Veterinary Marketing Podcast, where it's all about helping your veterinary practice attract, engage, and retain clients. Broadcasting a new podcast every Monday from sunny Southern California, here's your host, Brandon Bashirs.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode number 168 of the Veterinary Marketing Podcast. I want to say thank you so much for listening. Today is a very special episode because it's the 5-year anniversary of the Veterinary Marketing Podcast. I can't believe it's been 5 years since I started the podcast. That just came up actually last week, but I wanted to do a 5-year anniversary episode special. And what I came up with for today are the 5 things, because 5 years, 5 things, the 5 things that you can do to dramatically improve your digital marketing. And I really tried to think about this and distill it down to, if I only could give people 5 pieces of advice, what would it be so that it could make the biggest impact in your digital marketing? So before we begin, though, I want to mention a few things. First and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate everybody who's listened, take the time to reach out, engage. It has been ridiculously amazing. In creating this podcast, I didn't even know if people would listen. So I just want to say thank you for listening. I genuinely appreciate you. And please let me know if there's anything that I can ever do for you. If you ever have questions, comments, concerns, whatever it is, just be sure to reach out. I always appreciate connecting with listeners. And just thank you to everybody who has listened, the community that is there. And I just genuinely feel so much gratitude for everybody that is in this community that listens and things. So with that, I want to make sure that you're getting the most out of the community. If you head on over to the Facebook group, The Veterinary Marketing Nerds, if you go to facebook.com/groups/The Veterinary Marketing Nerds, you can request to join, get collaboration, ask questions, all kinds of good stuff. If you have any questions for me, that's typically the best place to reach out. Email is crazy and not a good way to reach out anymore. All right, so that being said, let's jump into today's episode. And I'm so thankful for everybody that listens to this podcast. You know, really, when I started this podcast, it was out of seeing that the veterinary industry needed marketing help. And it is amazing the light years that the industry has traveled in the past 5 years. It was 5 years ago, people were like, Facebook, are you crazy? Why would I want to have my practice on Facebook? And now I see the kinds of comments, the kinds of engagement that people are getting, the kinds of marketing that they're doing, and it is amazing. And I think that as more and more veterinary practices begin to adopt digital marketing and have strategy, have people in practice that are working in practice to actively drive clients in, to engage with clients on digital, it's just going to be more and more beneficial. So, you know, that's really my goal, is to help you get all of the tools, all of the resources that you need to effectively manage your marketing, to effectively measure your marketing, to understand what's working, what's not, what you should fix. And so as a result of that mission and that goal, I would love to know, is there anything that you need help with? Are there any topics that you would like me to cover? Is there anything that you find difficult or daunting? Again, a great place to post those questions would be inside the group, and I would love to kind of get some feedback on that. So let's jump into today's episode. I think the number one thing that every single veterinary practice needs to do, and it's the difficult thing, right? This is not a should, and I hear people should all over themselves with this, right? I should do that, and yep, I should do this. We need to turn that from a should into a need. You need to have systems set up. Marketing automation systems as much as possible. Your content creation systems as much as possible. And your communication systems as much as possible. So what do I mean by that? You have to have email marketing in place. You have to have text message marketing in place. I think text message marketing is no longer a should, it is a need now. And I think it's only going to get more and more important, especially with volatility on social platforms. You need to communicate with clients. You need to have a way to actively communicate with them. And that's sounds crazy to say that every single practice needs this, but I actually think that we're at a time now where every practice needs text message marketing. We also need to have email campaigns set up so that when somebody gets input into an email list, they don't just sit on the shelf and never have anything come out. So that being said, every practice needs to have at least one email newsletter per month, and that's the bare bones minimum. I would love to see weekly emails as the minimum, but I know that's not realistic. So I'm going to set, these are things that you need to do. Don't just listen to this and say, okay, yeah, I should be doing that. Say, I'm going to do this, because once you set up these tools, once you set up these systems and have them in place, anything that you do on top of these systems, and now it runs behind the scenes without you having to think about it, without you having to work on it, this amplifies the value of any kind of marketing that you're doing. If you're doing lead generation, you have some of those leads that fall through the cracks, right? You have people that sign up for specials or offers or things that you're doing, and they never show up in practice. So when you have this additional layer of marketing automation behind that, where you have email marketing going out, text message marketing going out on a regular basis, that needs to be in place and running actively so that you are creating the highest potential value per lead that you get. This kind of stuff that you have to set up, it takes time to set up. So you need to figure out what email marketing service you're going to be using. Now, I'm just going to give you 3 choices and throw them out there so that you can choose one of them. One's a small, medium, and a large, right? Basically, those are the 3 choices. There's a million choices out there. Don't get caught up in all of the bells and whistles and things. Choose something that's going to fit your budget and your needs and go for it. The basic, everybody needs MailChimp because it's free. So if you don't have it in the budget to get something, MailChimp is your choice. If you have a budget and you want some automation, you want some bells and whistles, ActiveCampaign is your choice. Go for it because it is a great tool. It has a lot of great features and automation. If you want to get really fancy and you want all of the tools and the integrations and you want to be charging for things online and you want to be doing cool stuff, then Infusionsoft is your pick. But for almost every single veterinary practice out there, MailChimp or ActiveCampaign, and those 2 will do it. They'll cover almost everything. So I'm just trying to make this as simple and doable as possible. I'm not trying to confuse you with too many choices, because if you get into the analysis paralysis, it's not a good thing. So choose. Is it going to be MailChimp, or do you want to have tagging and automation sequences and advanced segments and all those kind of things? Then if you want those kind of features, go for ActiveCampaign. So once you have those set up, you need to have your email marketing and text message marketing set up to continue on there. Now, text message marketing, my suggestion for outbound texts is Twilio. It's a great text messaging service. I'm going to be doing a lot more research on text message marketing platforms and campaigns that are going to drive people into your practice. That's definitely one of the next few episodes that I'm doing. So stay tuned for that. I have used Twilio for follow-up on events and things like that in the past, and I like it. What you can do is integrate your email marketing with Twilio. So real quick here, let's talk about what other kinds of systems that you need to have in place. And I know we're getting deeper into, setting up automatic marketing systems, but whenever possible, automate. So whether it's social posting, whether it's creating a content library that automatically posts, you need to be posting more frequently on more platforms. So tools to help you achieve that and really cut down on the work time are going to have a huge impact on your productivity and also just the time that you spend doing this. So that being said, you need to choose something that works. My suggestions for automation systems are Agorapulse for posting and content management. If you just want something to put into a basically hopper of content that's going to be automatically rotated through and posted out, and that lets you get more out of your marketing, then I would suggest Meet Edgar. And then, those 2 choices will cover you for everything. I think Agorapulse has a little bit more community management bells and whistles. So if you have a marketing manager in your practice, I would really suggest getting Agorapulse to help them. So let's talk about number 2. And again, setting all of those things up, when you have these automation systems set up and it runs without you having to think about it, without you having to decide what to do, it takes a lot off your plate. You already have so much on your plate. Take some of that off and have these systems run behind the scenes and actually sit down, take a day to do it. I know that you probably don't ever have a day that's free. I get it. But the return on that, right? It's not like a one-time thing where, if you had a patient come in, you do the service, it's your time, you're trading your time for dollars there. When you set up systems like this, it's like building an asset that is going to pay you over time. So anytime as a business owner, you can focus on those kinds of tasks that help shift the conversation from trading time for dollars to setting up systems that run in behind the scenes, it's really, really helpful. So let's jump on to the next thing. We need to create and repurpose more content. Every single brand out there needs more content. I have not yet seen a veterinary practice that is producing enough content across the board. So, number one, I think having a solid video strategy helps you to do this. And the reason why I think it starts with video is because video is so easy to repurpose. You can take video, you can post it on all the platforms. You can post snippets on Instagram that point to YouTube. It helps you to be cross-platform. It helps you to be everywhere. You can take videos, embed them on your website, make blog posts out of it. You can scrape the audio from that, repurpose it, turn it into a podcast. You can make it a video podcast. There's just so much more that you can do with video that you can't do with images. And so that being said, you have to create content. You have to set time aside for it. So scheduling out your time for creating content, having somebody in the practice do that, and doing it with video is going to really dramatically help you to get ahead. So not only creating that content, but also taking it to the next step of publishing it out everywhere. Having a specific strategy to take one piece of content, making sure that you're editing it and formatting it so that it lines up on all of the other platforms is extremely important. So I know I'm saying all of this is extremely important. I'm trying to distill it down to the 5 things that I think you really need to work on. So creating, repurposing, and publishing more. So think about, in terms of video, right? Should you be doing portrait or should you be doing landscape video? So it depends on your strategy, definitely. If you are going to exclude YouTube, this is going to sound crazy. If you're going to be focusing on Facebook and Instagram and not doing YouTube video, then I think you should probably be doing portrait video. That's crazy, I know. Talking crazy here. But it's optimized for the mobile platforms, which is the primary engagement method that you're going to have on both Facebook and on Instagram. So really think about that. If you can do square video is doing great on both Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you're going to be posting videos on YouTube and repurposing those, consider re-exporting the videos in square format. So you do one that's in 1080 landscape. You then take that and just basically repurpose it, put your logo or put some headers in the 2 black bar sections above and below the video, and then repost it to all of the platforms. If you took one video that you shot in, let's say, landscape, and you exported it in 1080, and then you created a square version that you're going to post on Facebook and Instagram, and then you also post that 1080 landscape version up in Instagram IGTV, you're able to use that in a bunch of places. You can also, create a quick snippet out of that, post it in your Instagram feed, and share it to your stories. There's just so many different options for posting one single piece of content. And if you're creating one piece of content a week, then you're going to be hopefully putting that out there in terms of like recurring content that you can use over and over again. It's not just something that you're talking about like, this week in the news, this thing happened. It's, this week we're talking about heartworm, or this week we're talking about certain dental conditions, or, whatever it is that you're talking about, it's something that you're going to be able to reuse for the foreseeable future. So at some time you'll build up a really solid library. And again, this is where having those systems for publishing that lets you put all of the content in a place that automatically pushes it out, reuses it. It gives you such a bigger return on what you're doing. Instead of posting something once, it's up there and then it's gone, and you're not able to get more out of it. So repurposing, reusing, reposting as much as possible. So that I think is the number 2 important tip here. Number 3 is being extremely clear on who you are trying to reach and knowing who your client avatars are. I can't stress this enough in terms of setting up your pre-work. And, there's so much that goes into doing digital marketing, right? Creation of the content and publishing and posting it and pushing it out there with ads and all of these other things. If you miss the mark on the pre-work, and number 3 and number 4 here on the top 5 things are both pre-work, meaning it's stuff that you do before you even start creating content or ads. So defining your client avatar is understanding exactly who they are. What is important to them? What do they value? What are their goals? What challenges are they facing? What makes them afraid? What are they nervous about? How can you help them get better results? Where are the places that these people are hanging out? What kind of content is valuable to these people? Do they value information? Do they value expertise? Do they value having a voice in the conversation? Understanding those kinds of points when it comes to your prospective clients is just beyond important. So spend the time that it takes to get very, very clear on exactly who you're trying to reach, what areas they live in, what income levels they have, what kind of language they use, what kind of language resonates with them, what kind of image resonates with them, who they look to for advice and resources, and just get into their mind and really think about it. And the best part of digital marketing is that you are attracting the kinds of clients that you're looking. You don't just have to target or create marketing that's going to attract everybody. The more refined that you can get, the more interesting you're going to be. I'll give you an example. So if you wanted to create marketing around people that were like Star Wars fans, for example, you're going to use like Star Wars as an example, right? You're going to post something because maybe there's like a movie coming out, or you find that a lot of your clients that are really great pet parents or whatever are Star Wars fans also, and you're going to be targeting this really niche segment, right? If you create any kind of marketing or any kind of content or pictures or videos that's kind of like funny and around this, it's going to really appeal to this small segment group who you're trying to reach. And so by being so niche, you avoid being boring, essentially, right? If you're talking to a specific group of people about things that they care about, you're not going to seem boring to them. And if you make something that's just general and bland and vanilla, it's going to be boring because it's not talking to anybody in particular. So that being said, make your avatars as refined as possible. It takes more time and it takes more effort to reach these smaller segments of people, but when you get connected with groups of people and they feel like you're actually talking to them, it takes a lot of the pressure off in trying to come up with content that's like extremely engaging. Because if you're talking to, single moms who have multiple children and also pets, and they're trying to get things done versus just talking to women between the ages of 30 and 45. If you're able to identify those segments and really hone in on what their problems are, what their pain is, what kind of language they use, what kind of humor works with them, those kinds of things, you're going to have so much more success. So understand who your avatar is. And then the next suggestion of the top 5 things is you have to do your before and after grid. Understand what the before looks like when clients come to you, what they look like, what they feel like, what they're experiencing, what they're worried about, and then essentially what it is that you're offering, how your offer gets them to the after. And this is just incredibly valuable because it lets you not only understand what their pain points are, what motivates these groups of people, but it also helps you to talk about the benefits and not just the features. So if you talk about, for example, vaccinations, if you're talking about vaccinations that are required by law and the price points and how long you've been in business and why people should come because of you, that's just talking about all the features, right? These are things that you offer. And if only thing you're talking about features, you're going to have a commodity that you're selling, right? If you're buying like paper towels, for example, the thing that is when people buy paper towels, they're pretty much looking for features at the best price because it's a commodity. Do you really care which brand you buy paper towels? Now, I'm sure that there's companies out there that are making sure that they're super eco-friendly, that they're making a small impact on the environment, right? They've changed the conversation from being, hey, we're all about, having 2-ply paper towels that are tear any size, to, hey, we're making sure that we're providing this product, but at the same time, we're not going to hurt this thing that you deeply care about. So that's the difference between the before and after grid and just talking about features and benefits. you have to understand, how does the brand promise that you're making get them to where they want to be? Because that's ultimately what they care about at the end of the day. So if you're trying to attract people that are amazing pet parents that just value their pets beyond belief, then make sure that you're talking to them in a way that makes them feel like, if I come to you, I'm going to get the status, I'm going to get all of these worries cared for, and it's going to help me to help my pet, which is ultimately the kinds of people that you're looking to attract. So I think that that's a huge distinction. And again, this is part of the pre-work that is so important. Before you begin your campaigns, understanding what it is that you're actually offering in terms of benefit to these clients and these customers, what it is that they get out of your promise that your brand is making to them. And I think the last thing that is very, very important in terms of how to do pre-work that makes you get better results and understand what your marketing is doing is setting up your reporting and your metrics. This is kind of the three parts of the pre-work that you have to do before you do any kinds of marketing. So understand, what are the metrics that you're going to be measuring for success? How are they going to be measured? And not only how are they going to be measured, but how are they going to be reported? How can you get this information in a way that doesn't take a tremendous amount of time and energy and effort? So setting up preset reports that go out to you automatically, that get emailed to you so that you're in the loop, you know what's going on, you know what numbers you need to be looking for, and in turn, you understand that these KPIs, as long as we are in the range that we want to be, we're going to be doing okay when it comes to our marketing. So I think that in terms of how many numbers you should be measuring, I would probably pick no more than 10 if I was a practice owner. If I was doing, in-depth digital marketing for a practice, it's going to be way more because I have so many things to focus on and worry about. But if you're the owner of the practice or the manager who's managing marketers, make sure that you understand what are the 10 most important KPIs and make sure that they're being sent to you regularly, that you're not having to pull reports, because pulling reports makes it so that you never get the reports. Sitting down and logging into AdWords or Facebook ads or all of these other places where you have to go out and you have to pull out the data and you have to set up these reports, and it's complicated and time consuming, that doesn't make sense because it takes time. And anything that you can do that helps to alleviate that, lets you automate it, is going to be extremely, extremely helpful. So if you don't have the tracking pixels set up that you need to have set up, or the analytics set up before you need to have them set up, you shouldn't be running ads. You need to do that pre-work. It's going to dramatically change the potential for, in general, just success or failure, because the only way that you're going to succeed is by getting lucky and creating something that just runs ROI positive without you having to think about it. And I think we all know, I'm sure everybody's tried digital marketing at some point, and not knowing if it's successful or not is just, it doesn't help you to feel comfortable. And usually you end up, even if it was successful, you'd end up stopping those campaigns or those ads. So let's recap here really quick. We have set up your systems, and those are your marketing automation systems, communications when it comes to email marketing, when it comes to content production and content distribution, text message marketing. We need to create, repurpose, and publish content. It needs to be more. You got to do it. You got to do it more often. Number 3 is you have to define your client avatars and get crystal clear on who it is that you're trying to reach, who it is that you're trying to engage, and how to communicate with these people. Number 4 is do a before and after grid. Really understand what it is that the clients get emotionally, as well as what they actually get physically too. Like, in terms of, here's this service that you get X, Y, and Z, and that's what you get. But on top of that and beyond that, the emotional and status type things that people get. People do things because they want status and they want to worry less. They want more time, those kinds of things. Once you have that set up, you need to have your reporting and your tracking and your analytics in place. I think if you set up these 5 core things, you're going to be successful. Now, the last thing that I want to mention here really quick, and I know I said 5, but I wanted to give you a bonus one, is multi-channel marketing. This last year has been absolutely the most volatile year in digital marketing to date. And it's only going to get more crazy. There's so much craziness happening when it comes to privacy issues, when it comes to privacy laws, when it comes to advertising guidelines, and especially as we enter into a presidential race year, it's going to get nuts. So make sure that you're doing multi-channel marketing. Do not put all of your eggs in one basket, because this is going to get crazy, people, which is exciting because anytime there's volatility, there's opportunity, right? If everybody had a certain way for success and it was slow and steady, you wouldn't be able to, seize opportunities that arise. And so as much as it is stressful and frustrating from an advertising standpoint of geez, they're moving the cheese every single week, you need to take it as like everybody else is dealing with this too. So if I can get even just a tiny, tiny bit of advantage in terms of strategy, in terms of implementation, and I see something that works and I can implement it and it works well, you're going to be able to get so far ahead. So make sure that you're doing multi-channel marketing. I'd say focus in on one specific strategy that you're going to make your primary strategy when it comes to social media, especially, and then just make sure that you're spending time and having a presence in these other channels as well. So for me, in most veterinary practices, I would say most of you should be focusing when it comes to social in terms of social media channels. I would say probably Instagram is the primary focus, with a heavy Facebook presence as well. So Facebook and Instagram definitely, very, very heavy presence there. And then all of the other social channels, whether it's Snapchat, YouTube, LinkedIn. LinkedIn's getting huge. And I think that even though it's primarily business to business, your clients and your customers are there, and the high-end clients and customers are there. So don't get out of there either. You need to be spending some time there as well. Listen, I hope that this was really helpful. I just, again, want to say thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for subscribing to the podcast. Thank you for 5 years of amazing connections and just amazing people. So thank you to the whole veterinary industry for, just being awesome. I really, really appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on next week's episode.